Okay, so I'm going to be taking a digital SAT practice test. It's been a while since I've taken an actual SAT, but this is the new format, so I'm going to try it out. I'm just going to start with a full length SAT, and I'll do practice test 1. I will not be testing with accommodations. So let's go. Questions in this section address a number of important reading and writing skills. Each question includes one or more passages. Okay, time is already going. Okay, researchers and conservationists stress that biodiversity loss due to invasive species is something. For example, people can take simple steps to avoid introducing potentially invasive organisms. Okay, so it would be preventable. It's preventable because they can take steps to reduce what they're talking about, which is the invasive species. It's not any of these. Is there a way to strike through? Yes. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right, next. It is by no means something to recognize the influence of Dutch painter on this other guy's paintings, because he cites him as an inspiration. However, some scholars have suggested that the ancient Mesopotamian poem may have had a far greater impact. So it's by no means, I don't think substantial makes sense. I don't think satisfying makes sense. I don't think, it's not saying it's unappropriate to recognize the influence. I'm going to cross that out. So I think it's unimportant. It is by no means unimportant to recognize the influence. So it's saying like, it's important to recognize the influence. But there's this other one with greater impact. It could be substantial. Can I flag this? Yeah, I'm gonna flag that one. Astronomers are confident that the star Betelgeuse will eventually consume all of the helium in its core and explode in a supernova. They are much less confident, however, about when this will happen, since that depends on internal characteristics that are largely unknown. Astrophysicists and colleagues recently investigated whether acoustic waves in the star could be used to determine internal stellar states, but concluded that this method could not sufficiently reveal. Okay. What describes the function of the underline? It explains how the work was received by others in the field? No. It presents the central finding. Was the central finding that it depends on internal characteristics that are unknown? I don't think so. They didn't find that. It seems more like a limitation. Well, okay, so it describes a serious limitation of the method. I think it's C. It identifies the problem that the colleagues attempted to solve but did not. I don't think it's a limitation of the method that they use. I think this language that's trying to trick the test taker there. So I think it's C, but I might flag that one too. That's kind of tricky. The mimosa tree evolved in East Asia, where the beetle, I'm not going to say that, I don't know how to say that. The trees were introduced in North America, but evolutionary links between predators and their prey can persist across centuries and continents. Okay. It was introduced in Southeast Asia near, within a year, 93% of the trees had been attacked by the beetles. So this is like evidence of this claim here. So which describes the function. It states the hypothesis that they set out to investigate. No, there's nothing that says that was the hypothesis they were investigating. It presents a generalization that is exemplified by the discussion of the mimosa trees. Maybe. It offers an alternative explanation of the findings. No. It provides context that clarifies why the species mentioned spread to new locations. It doesn't really provide context. I think it's B, but evolutionary links between predators and their prey can persist. It presents a generalization that is exemplified by the discussion of mimosa trees. And B, terranus, which is right here and right here. I'm going to flag this one again. These are kind of tricky. When companies in the same industry propose merging with one another, they often claim that the merger will benefit consumers by increasing efficiency and therefore lowering prices. Okay. Text 2 is arguing that text 2 is arguing that text 1 is focusing on short-term effects and not long-term effects, where it shows that over long-term, the efficiency gains realized by merged companies do result in economic benefits. So this is saying the kind of bad effects for the consumers due to prices rising is only short-term. That's what text 2 is saying. So text 2, how would text 2 respond to text 1? They would argue that over time the expenses incurred by the newspaper company will increase. No. It's not talking about the prices, I'm talking about the expenses incurred, and nothing in text 2 explicitly states that. They would recommend that Fan compare the near-term effect of the merger with the effect of a merger in another market. I don't think so. They would encourage Fan to investigate whether the projected effect on subscription prices persists over an extended period. Yes, that would make sense based on text 2. They would claim that mergers have a different effect on consumer prices in the newspaper industry. No. Okay. Following text is from this novel. Eleanor is the eldest daughter, whose advice was so effectual, possessed a strength of understanding, coolness of judgment, which qualified her, though only 19. Okay, so we have like a contrast here. To be the counselor of her mother and enable her to frequently counteract, to the advantage of them all, that eagerness of mind in her mother, which generally led to imprudence. She had an excellent heart. Things are strong. It was a knowledge which her mother had yet to learn. Okay, so this is talking about the daughter still, and which of her sisters had resolved never to be taught. Okay. She doesn't argue often. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. Eleanor can be overly sensitive. No. Bad role model. No. Mature for her age. Yes. That is very obviously explicitly stated. Not explicitly stated, but suggested by this part here. Following text. This woman was of strong individuality, whose comments upon her acquaintances present or absent were marked by frankness, at times no less than startling. This characteristic caused her to be more or less avoided. She was aware of this sentiment on the part of her acquaintances and rather exulted in it. Okay. So what's true is that the acquaintances, they would try to refrain from discussing topics. So this is the thing, is that this could be like true about the acquaintances. Like, it would make sense, but it's not based on the text. So that's gone. They're unable to spend as much time with this Ochiltree as she would like. No. They're too preoccupied. Yeah, so another one where it seems like might make sense, but it doesn't. It's not based directly on the text. They're likely offended by what Mrs. Ochiltree has said about them. Yes. Okay, poem. Weary with toil, I hurried my bed. Do you repose? To work expired, for then my thoughts far from where I abide. Begin a zealous pilgrimage to the inky, my drooping eyelids open wide. The main idea of the text. He's falling asleep and dreaming. No, he's not dreaming. His eyelids are open wide. The speaker is planning an upcoming trip to the friend's house. I don't think so. The speaker is too fatigued to continue a discussion. Is there a discussion here? No. The speaker is thinking about the friend instead of immediately falling asleep. I think this is it. He is thinking about the friend. His eyelids are open wide, but he is trying to go to sleep because he's in bed. Okay, black beans are nutritionally dense, but they're difficult to digest, in part because of their high levels of soluble fiber and compounds like raffinose. They also contain anti-nutrients like tannins and trypsin inhibitors, which interfere with the body's ability to extract nutrients from foods. Okay. And so these researchers, they claim that inducing fermentation using lactic acid bacteria improves the digestibility of the beans. Okay. So what would support the claim? So we're looking for something that would support the idea that fermentation of black beans using lactic acid would get rid of these things that cause the digestion to be difficult. So when cooked, fermented beans contain significantly more, but significantly less of this other. No, because that's more of one and less than the other. We're looking for something that gets rid of both. They contain significantly less, and when cooked, They display significant reduction. Yes, because that accounts for both. When the fermented beans were analyzed, they were found to contain 2 microorganisms that are theorized to increase the amount of nitrogen. No. No, because this is talking about both fermented and non-fermented black beans, which would not really support the research. Okay, table, Earth's atmosphere. I'm going to just skip to the last sentence here, or last 2 sentences. Astrophysicist team calculated that the rates showed that material, okay, so slower moving SPC or AST has a lower rate in the same material. Than the same material in faster moving. For example, whereas the ablation rate for iron, okay, from AST, so we're looking for something with iron, but that is HTC or OCC that's larger, because it's iron, same material, but so we need something that has a higher rate, because this says that the AST is a lower rate. So iron from HTC is 90. Okay. Which of the following most effectively uses the data from the graph? Okay, what's the claim? Analyze trends. A general measure may not fully reflect uncertainty about measure. Okay, that's talking about general economic policy may not fully reflect uncertainty about specific areas of policy. Okay, in the case of the UK, align closely. Okay, economic policy aligned closely with uncertainty about tax in 2005. General economic policy and tax. Okay, that's true, but differed from uncertainty in 2009 by a large amount. So that's not true, because it did not differ by a large amount in 2009. Was substantially lower than uncertainty about tax and public spending. Okay, was it though in 2009? General, boom, boom. No, it was not substantially lower in 2005. It was barely lower. Reaches highest level between 2005 and 2010. In the same year that uncertainty about trade policy and tax and public spending, policy reached their lowest levels. So this reached its highest level here. But no, because tax did not reach its lowest level there. Was substantially lower in 2005 than trade policy, yes, and was substantially higher than trade policy in 2010. Yes. Or substantially lower in 2005, higher in 2010, yes. Okay. Another table. Alaska marmots hibernate in groups and therefore burn less energy, keeping warm. A researcher hypothesized that because Arctic ground squirrels hibernate alone, they would likely exhibit longer bouts of torpor and shorter arousal episodes. Okay, what describes the hypothesis? So if Arctic squirrels exhibit longer torpor, then we would need something that shows that that's the case from the table. No, because this is just discussing the arousal episodes. Alaska. Nope, that's not really the comparison we're looking for. The Alaska marmots had shorter torpor bouts and longer arousal periods. So, wait, okay. Restrip. I think that's it. The Alaska marmots had more torpor bouts and arousal episodes, but the arousal, no. Because that's not a comparison. I think C is the right answer there. Okay, another table. The claim is, however, this transition happened. Okay, what transition? Over the past 200 years, the percentage of the population employed in the agricultural sector has declined, while the service sector has risen. Okay, so we're looking at manufacture, agricultural and services. But it's a different rate. This can be seen most clearly when. Okay, 1950 to 1900 to 1950, we have 43 to 32 and 28 to 35. versus 41 to 14 and 31 to 53. That seems like it could be right because that's a pretty different jump. 18 to 100 to 2012, 64 to 3, 68 to 2, and then 14 to 76, 13 to 80. That's pretty similar. 1900, 43 to 3, 28 to 76, 41 to 2, 31 to 80. That's still pretty similar. 1800 to 1900, 64 to 43, 14 to 28, 68 to 41, 13 to 31. That's still pretty similar. So this is the reason why I think it's A, is because that's the biggest difference in rates when you compare the two countries across these particular years, 1950. So yeah, like for example, 43 to 32 is much smaller than 41 to 14. And same with 28 to 35, 31 to 53. Okay. This plant is a plant that has become invasive in North America, where it displaces native vegetation and sickens cattle. It can be controlled with herbicides. That approach can also kill plants nearby. There's research that introduced engineered DNA into plant species to inhibit their reproduction. This may offer a path towards exclusively targeting this. Okay, I'm looking for something that says, which would mean you would have a way to kill or reduce the leafy spurge without harming nearby plants or something. So D. Yeah, D would logically complete that. In 2011, these two writers joined forces to found Cake Literary, a book packaging company. I think you need a comma there. Oh, or no, sorry, whoops. You need a comma and then that. In 2011, these two writers joined forces to found Cake Literary, a book packaging company that specializes in the creation and promotion of stories. I think if it was just, if there was no comma, you would need this comma here to be a colon. It would have to be like Cake Literary, colon, a book packaging company that specializes in the creation. So it's definitely not that. I'm pretty sure it's not that, but I might flag that. In 1930, Japanese-American artists depicted the natural beauty of Yosemite evening at Carl Inn and Lake Basin in the High Sierra. In 2009, so it's which choice completes the text? Okay. What is being exhibited? What is exhibited here? The two woodcuts are being exhibited. So it's not it was, and it's not this was, and it's not some were. That would not make any sense. Some were would imply that there's like a bunch of them. And that like a certain amount of the large amount of paintings is being exhibited. But right here we have two exactly. So they were being exhibited. American writer who immigrated from Haiti, has won acclaim for powerful short stories, novels, and essays. Okay, I think it's this, because has won acclaim for powerful short stories, novels, and essays. Period. Praising her lyrical yet unflinching depictions of her native country's turbulent history, writer Robert has compared blah, 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 period. Yeah, so any of these other three would be a run-on sentence. In 1966, Emmett Ashford became the first African-American to umpire a Major League Baseball game. His energetic gestures announcing when a player had struck out, and his habit of barreling after a hit ball to see if it would land out of bounds helped transform the traditionally solemn umpire role. Okay, I don't think there's a comma here at all. His energetic gestures announcing when a player had struck out, and his habit of doing this other thing transform the traditionally solemn umpire. In order to have a comma, you would need another comma after here. You would need his energetic gestures when a player had struck out, and this other thing, comma, ending at bounds, but there's no comma there, so these aren't correct, or this one isn't correct, and these two aren't correct because that would not make it a complete sentence anyway. Okay, in crafting her fantasy fiction, Nigerian-born author. Okay. Her 2014 novel, for instance, is a complex retelling of the story of Snow White, while her 2019 novel Okay, I think it's just this. And the reason why is because if it was a comma, if it was B, you would need another comma after novel. While her 2019 novel, comma, Gingerbread, comma, offers a delicious twist on the classic tale of Hansel and Gretel. That would, I think, make sense. But it's not consistent with the other one. And the reason why is that this here, first of all, these commas are just part of the title of the thing of the book, so they don't really count grammatically. And then her 2014 novel, Boy, Snow, Bird, for instance, this for instance here is why we have that comma originally. So yeah, I think it's C. Okay. Violins in the mid-17th century, in close collaboration with musicians, introduced changes to the shape of the violin, flattening some of the instrument's curves and making it lighter, because we're not talking about the curves. The curves aren't being made lighter. Yeah, the shape of the curves, that would not make sense, and it's not those or one. Okay, during the English neoclassical period, many writers imitated the epic poetry and satires of ancient Greece and Rome. They were not the first in England to adopt the literary modes of classical antiquity. Okay, I don't think it's A or B. I think we do need a semicolon here, because otherwise, I think that would be a comma splice. They were not the first in England to adopt the literary modes of classical something antiquity. They were not the first in England to adopt the literary modes of classical antiquity. However, some of the prominent figures. I think it's C, but I'm going to flag that. I actually am not sure. I got my pen. Yeah, I'm actually not sure about that. I'll flag that. One poll taken after the presidential debate suggested that John Kennedy lost badly. Only 21% of those who listened on the radio rated him the winner. The debate was ultimately considered a victory. Okay, so it's contradictory, because it's saying something suggested he lost, but he was ultimately considered the winner. So it's got to be nevertheless. It's not in other words, therefore, or likewise. And the thing about these three answers is that they're all like saying pretty much the same thing. In other words, therefore, and likewise. Nevertheless makes sense because it's a transition from something that is saying one thing to something that's contradicting that thing being said. Like, despite this, or however. Okay, in November, I was living in what seemed like the ideal city, Paris. She was studying firsthand the color and style. Modernist masters, beginning to make a name for herself as a painter. She longed to return to her childhood home of India. Okay, so again, same thing. It's a contradictory statement because she seemed like she was in the ideal city, but she longed to return home, so still would make sense. Like, saying a bunch of stuff, but still, she longed to return home. Again, these other three are kind of saying very similar things, which means they're probably not right. Okay. In his 1925 book, The Morphology of Landscape, U.S. geographer Carl Sauer challenged prevailing views about how natural landscapes influence human cultures. Okay, specifically, because it's saying he challenged the views, and then specifically, this is how he challenged the views. Not finally, not therefore, not similarly. Although those who migrated to California dreamed of finding gold nuggets, the deposits were buried deeply in rock beyond the reach of the prospectors. Okay. So I'm looking for something that says like so, because this is saying, since it was really hard to get the gold, many eventually gave up. So not still, because that's not really contradictory. Not farthermore. It would only be farthermore if these two sentences were independently supporting the same claim, which they're not. One builds on the other. So I think it's consequently, like as a consequence, many had given up their dreams. Next, that like kind of could work, but consequently is much stronger here. Okay, while researching a topic, students taking the following notes. Okay, there's bone fragments. They're estimated to be 5,300 years old. The analysis reveals that they consumed grain, and so the grain consumption is evidence that the cats may have been domesticated. Okay. And the student wants to present the study and its conclusions. Okay, so we're looking for the study and the conclusions. As part of a 2013 study, the chemical analysis, nope, because that doesn't have the conclusion. The conclusion is this. A 2013 analysis of bone fragments suggests that they may have been domesticated. Yes, because that includes information about the study and the conclusion. 2013, they studied cats. Nope, because that's just the study. And that's also just incomplete information about the study without the conclusion. While researching a topic, a student is taking the following notes. Okay, so there's a spelling bee. The words used have diverse linguistic origins. So one student spelled a word that was Anglo-French. Another student spelled a word that was Greek. Okay, so that's the main point, is that there were different origins. The student wants to emphasize a difference in the origins of the two words. Okay, difference in the origins of the two words. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information? Okay, this word, that seems like it emphasizes the difference of the origins. B, in 2008, smear. Yeah, so it's not B, because even though it says the words were different, or it shows that the words were different, it isn't specifying the difference in origin. Okay, C won the 2009 Scripps National Spelling Bee by correctly spelling this. Nope, because even though it says one of the origins, it doesn't emphasize the difference in that, or between that origin and the other origin. Scripps National Spelling Bee uses words from diverse linguistic origins. Okay, it's not, I don't think it's D, but that's super tricky because it seems like D is right. But again, emphasize a difference in the origins of the two words, a difference in the origins of the two words. How are we supposed to know based on D that those don't have the same origin? A does a better job. Okay, let's review. Unimportant. It is by no means unimportant. Yeah, I think I got that. This one is tricky to me for some reason. 5 minutes left. They are much less confident since that depends on internal characteristics. Identifies the problem that they attempted to solve. Is this the problem they attempted to solve? Okay, they're trying to find when this will happen because it depends on internal characteristics. And they tried. They tried but failed. So I think it's C. And I don't think it's D because I don't think it's a limitation of the method that they used. Because that wouldn't really make sense. So I think it's C. Okay, I'll get rid of that. 4. I think the only other possible option would be A here. It states the hypothesis that these people tried to investigate, but I don't think that is it. I don't think this is the specific hypothesis. But the links can persist. Yeah, no. That would be an extreme, like, jump of logic to assume, like, that was the hypothesis that they were testing specifically. In 2011, these two writers founded this book packaging company, comma. Could it be B? Book packaging company. I actually think it might be B here. These are extremely, like, annoying and tricky grammar questions. In 2011, these two writers joined forces to found Cake Literary, a book packaging company. I feel like you would need a colon there. But I feel like you could make it work. I think I think it also might not be D, because I think if you do comma, a book packaging company, comma, that specializes in the creation, I think that last like clause with that specializes in the creation could be like too weak on its own. But like I legitimately could miss that one. And then this one is like ridiculous. I don't know. Like I know that you have to have a semicolon here. They were not the first in England to adopt the classical antiquity. However, semicolon. I don't know. I'm gonna go with C, but I really am not sure. I'm gonna go with C. Okay. Go to review page. Nah. Okay, module is over. And I think what I read about this new SAT is that it's adaptive, which means that how hard these next questions are is based on how I did in the first section. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, in habitats with limited nutrients, mutually beneficial relationships. In this exchange, the tree provides the fungus with carbon and the fungus reciprocates. It doesn't overreact, it doesn't retaliate, and it doesn't deviate. That would not make sense. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. Handedness, a preferential use of either the right or left hand, typically is easy to observe in humans. Because this trait is present, but less something in other animals, what do the researchers do? They employ tasks designed to reveal the animal's preferences. Okay, recognizable, because they are employing tasks to reveal the preferences, meaning that it's hard to see them in animals, but it's easy in humans. Okay, in nature poem, this guy portrays his something to the natural world by honoring the centrality of nature within his tribe's traditional beliefs, while simultaneously expressing his distaste for being in wilderness settings himself. Which of the following completes the text most logically? Okay, not responsiveness to and not mastery over. I think renunciation of seems right, because he's like expressing his distaste, but he's also simultaneously honoring the centrality of nature within his tribe's beliefs. So it's got to be ambivalence toward, because he has sort of contrasting ideas about the natural world. Okay. Some scientists have suggested that mammals in the Mesozoic era were not a very something group, but this other research suggests that early mammals living in the shadow weren't all ground-dwelling insectivores. Okay, and then the evidence is that there's fossils that have been found in China that could glide like a squirrel. Okay. So what is this evidence showing? If some could glide like a squirrel, not all of them were just ground-dwelling. That suggests that this original claim was making a claim that they were something like not very diverse. That would make the most sense. Predatory, not ever discussed. Obscure, no. Localized, I mean, that could be kind of tricky because there's like a flying squirrel and it could like fly to different places or something, but and as opposed to just being ground dwelling. But I don't think the claim about the flying squirrel gliding is strong enough to suggest that that's the main idea of what's going on here, against the other option of diverse, which does make a lot of sense here. Okay. Critics have asserted that fine art and fashion rarely something in a world where artists create timeless works for exhibition. They produce new styles. Okay, so this artist challenges the view because her work can be seen in the Museum of Art and purchased through her online boutique. So in a world where artists create timeless works, so this is fine art and this is the fashion. The museum is the fine art, the online is the fashion. So I'm going to say that the critics are saying they rarely intersect. Diverge is saying the opposite of that, and these other two up here don't even really make sense in context. The author's claim about the relationship between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens is something, as it fails to account for several recent archaeological discoveries. To be convincing, his argument would need to address recent findings. Okay, so if it needs to address recent findings, that means the argument is probably tenuous. It's not disorienting, it's not unoriginal. And you normally wouldn't say an argument is nuanced, I feel like, if it fails to do something. Okay, this province was situated on the Pacific coast. The capital is it's the capital of the Aztec Empire. Because the location was so something, these trade goods could only get there after a long journey. Okay, so why would it take a long time to get the goods to the capital? Okay, unobtrusive, no. Approximate, no. Okay, so these would both be like reasons for why it might be difficult to get the goods there, but peripheral makes more sense because it's talking about the location. It's hundreds of kilometers southeast. It's on the peripheral, like your peripheral vision. It's on like the side. So it's very difficult to get there. It's concealed, could like provide a reason for why, but it doesn't make sense in context. And also, if it was concealed, why would it take a long time to get there? Why would they even get there at all if it was concealed? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay. The contributions to the field of linguistics are something. Her many accomplishments include working as a professor, a poet, first grammar book, co-founding the Development Institute. Okay, extensive. It's not these two. It could be universal, but why I think it's not universal is because universal, in the context of contributions to the field, would make it seem like it either covers every single possible like way of contributing, or that every single person like knows about her contributions, neither of which are specified in the text. But extensive, so I think extensive is much more like appropriate here based on what it's saying. Okay, the following text is from this satirical novel. So there's, okay, everybody roared. Whether it was for the subordinate or not, it did not clearly appear. No one knows what, it's tough to know what everyone wanted. And this guy saw all of this with the chancellor, and the chancellor says, "What can it all mean? I've never heard such shouting before, and at this time of the morning too, and with such unanimity, like unanimous." So like he thinks everyone's like united. So how does he respond? He asks about the meaning of the crowd shouting. He does. What can it all mean? But he does not claim to know what they want anywhere. He indicates a desire to speak to the crowd, even though the crowd is asked to speak to the subordinate. No, he doesn't ever indicate a desire to speak to the crowd anywhere. He expresses sympathy for the crowd's demands. No. He describes the crowd as being united. Yes. Even though the crowd clearly appears otherwise. Yes. Boom. Did not clearly appear. Boom. Unanimity. Born in 1891. This guy's a photographer. In a paper for art history, claims of the photographs being considerable ethnographic value. In his work, he was able to capture diverse elements of Peruvian society, representing his subjects with both dignity and authenticity. Which finding would most directly support the student's claim? He commissioned portraits of wealthy Peruvians, but he also produced hundreds of images of carefully documenting the peoples, sites, and customs. Yeah, that could support the claim. He was capturing diverse elements. So long as the customs of indigenous communities of the Andes are still part of the Peruvian society, which it seems like they are to me. The photographs demonstrate a high level of technical skill. No, that is not relevant to the diverse elements. During his lifetime, Chambi was known and celebrated both within and outside his native Peru, as well as other places like Argentina, Spain, and Mexico. No, because we're talking about diverse elements of Peruvian society. Some of the people and places he photographed have been popular subjects for Peruvian photographers. No, I still think A is the better, and I'll flag that one because like it could be D somehow, and I'm like missing something, but I don't think it is. Okay, art collectives, like these collectives, are groups of artists who agree to work together for stylistic reasons, to advance political ideals, or to mitigate the costs. Okay. Regardless of the reasons, they usually involve collaboration. Based on a recent series of interviews, a journalist claims that this can be difficult for artists who are often used to having, which illustrates the claim. Okay, so which of the following showcases the difficulty of artists who normally work alone to work in these collectives? The first collective I joined included many amazing, talented artists, and we enjoyed seeing each other's company, but because we had a hard time sharing credit, the responsibility for our work, the collective didn't last. That could be it. We work together. That doesn't mean individual projects. Many of our projects for their sensibility. No, because even though this is discussing the individual projects, it's not talking about the about why it's difficult, having come from a situation of soul control. Having worked as a member of the collective for several years, it's sometimes hard to recall what it was like to work alone. That encourages my individual expression. Nope. It encourages the expression. So this is saying that it's a good thing, which is not what the journalist is saying. Sometimes an artist from outside the collective will choose to collaborate with us on a project, but all of these projects fit within the larger themes. No. So that's like too positive of a claim. Researchers hypothesize that a decline in the population of dusky sharks near the mid-Atlantic coast of North America led to the decline in the population of eastern oysters in the region. Dusky sharks do not typically consume these oysters, but consume cow-nose rays, which are the main predators of the oysters. Okay, so if we're looking for something that supports the hypothesis, I would be looking for something that shows how the population of sharks declining resulted in the cow-nose population increasing because they're the predators, and that would explain why the oysters decrease in the region. So that would be D. In the 20th century, ethnographers have made a concerted effort to collect Mexican American folklore. They did not always agree about the origins. Okay, they ruled out Mexico, or they... Okay. So we're looking for Paredes' argument. And so what does this guy say? He says, by contrast, he argues that while some Spanish influence is undeniable, Mexican-American folklore is mainly the product of the ongoing interactions of various cultures in Mexico and the United States. So we're looking for something that showcases these interactions. So definitely not C. Definitely not B, because various cultures and then similar elements from region to region would make it seem like it's influenced by only like one culture. Folklore collected several songs written from a poem of Spain. No, because we're talking about Mexico and the United States. Most of the folklore that the ethnographers collected consisted of corridos, ballads about history and social life of a clearly recent origin. That would make more sense because these interactions are more recent, but honestly, none of those answers are particularly strong to me. Okay, birds of many species ingest foods containing carotenoids. Okay, coloration that's deeply saturated. However, some males in the species use microstructures to manipulate light to create the appearance of a deeper saturation without the birds necessarily having to maintain. Okay, so I would think that these findings suggest that some male birds can like fake their fitness because the coloration is supposed to communicate fitness, but that you can use microstructures to fake it. So, which of the following logically completes the text? Nope, not A. They might be less effective. That could be it. Scientists have yet to determine why tanagers have a preference for mates with colorful appearances. No. Overall appearance may function as a dishonest signal. Yes, that logically completes the text. Okay. Among social I dropped my pen again. Sorry. Okay. Among social animals that care for their young, such as chickens, monkeys, humans, newborns show an innate attraction to faces. So these colleagues made a face in the shape of eyes, nose, and mouth using black dots, and they showed it to tortoises who live alone. Okay. when they found that the tortoise hatchlings showed a significant preference for the image. This suggests what? Okay. Nope, that they're not perceived as threatening. That's not what the text says. Researchers should not assume that the innate action is necessarily an adaptation related to social interaction or parental care. Yes, that would be supported by the fact that of this right here. Researchers can assume that the attraction to stimuli that is seen is learned rather than innate. No, why would this show the researchers that it's learned rather than innate? I don't think that's right. Newly hatched tortoises show a stronger preference than adult. No. So yeah, it's B. At the end of the day, there is only one right answer and 3 wrong answers. Okay. The increased integration of digital technologies throughout the process of book creation in the late 20th and early 21st centuries lowered the cost of book production, but those costs have been most significant in the manufacturing and distribution process, which occurs after the authoring, editing, and design of the book are complete. This suggests that in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, what? Okay, so this is basically saying costs have gone up, but not in every like individual component of the design process or of the book process, book creation process. So no, not A. Customers generally expected no. You can usually tell when an answer is wrong pretty quickly. Publishers increase the variety of their offerings by printing more unique titles. No. So D, the cost of writing, editing, and designing a book were less affected by the technologies than were the costs of manufacturing and distributing a book. Yes, because we have evidence that shows that the decreased costs have been most significant here, and that occurs after all this is already done. When external forces are applied to a common glass, energy builds up and fractures. Okay, like a glass is shattering. These engineers used the chemical, oh, it's a grammar one. Okay. Use the chemical compound aluminum oxide. Yeah, I don't see a need for a comma there anywhere. I think the general rule about commas is that you don't use them unless you need them, or unless you're reading something that already has one in there, in which case you need to appropriately apply one or not. But I don't think you just like add commas here when it works on its own. I could be wrong though. In many of our landscape paintings, this artist captured, what did she capture? The mountains. Interestingly, the triangle representing the mountain itself is among the few defined. Yeah, the triangle is among the few defined paintings or figures. So you would not say are, you would not say have been, and you would not say were, because all 3 of those imply that there are multiple objects being discussed, which is not the case because we have the triangle. Okay, tiny pore structures in a leaf absorb blah, blah, blah. In an article, plant cell biologist. Okay, plant cell biologist. Once again, I don't think you need a comma here. I could be wrong. Like you have to say like plant cell biologist Yuri Lee. Like literally, I think like either C or D like could be okay here. I would need to do some more research as to what the actual rule is here for like the commas. I could like, if I was actually trying to take this to like maximize my score, I might like answer one like this and the other that was very similar with no commas, but I'm just going to stay consistent here and say that you don't need a comma there, but I could be wrong. Okay, researchers studying have determined they've determined the reason why they're searching for food, yeah, because this is the reason in the northern hemisphere. Yep. And if you use any of these other ones, it would be a very, very bad run-on sentence. And I think most people would be able to tell that based on just like reading the sentence out loud with any of these other ones. And they'd be like, that is not like a sentence that makes sense. Okay, researchers studying the army. Okay, they were shocked to realize that the shape of each statue's ears, like the shape of each person's ears, is. Okay, first, so like what's really tricky about this one is it seems like it should be past tense, but it's the reason why it's is because it's talking about the shape of each statue's ears. And it seems like it should be were or have been or are, because it's talking about all the statue's ears or the person's ears, but it's discussing the shape. That's like the main object of the subject of the sentence. And you wouldn't say like the shape of all of the circles in the shape of all of the circles on this paper are round. You would say the shape of something, blah, 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 is this. If it had said the shapes, then it would be plural, but it just said the shape. That is an extremely like mean question. Okay. In 1943, mathematics professor, career would involve more than just equations, though, as a pioneering computer. Yeah, it's colon, or it's comma, colon. The career would involve more than just equations, comma, though, colon. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. Because it's saying a comma and then it's helping set up the last claim. And then once again, if you tried to use any of these other ones, you would, and read it aloud, you would see that the sentence like doesn't make any sense. Okay, colorful displays of light. Okay, logical transition. The colorful displays of light seen above the northern and southern poles, broadly speaking, result from the sun's activity. Okay. The broadly speaking makes me feel like it's going to be specifically, but let's see. The sun releases charged particles that are captured by the Earth's magnetic field and channeled towards the poles. These particles then collide with atoms in the atmosphere, causing the atoms to emit more light. Yes, specifically makes sense because it's saying broadly speaking, and then specifically this is how it happens. Hence, similarly, and nevertheless. Nevertheless is contradictory, like implies a contradictory statement. Similarly would imply that this is like a similar claim to this, which it's not a similar claim. It's a claim that is going into more detail about why or how this thing happens. Hence could be also, like, I could see some people picking hence. But hence is like more like, oh, this is like directly causing this, which isn't exactly what's happening. Some members of the U.S. Supreme Court have resisted calls to the arguments. Okay. They'd be tempted to perform for the cameras and lower the quality. Something the justices worry that most viewers would not even watch the deliberations, only short clips that could be missed. Okay, so I think it's additionally, because the call is they don't want to televise the arguments. They're concerned that the participants of the arguments would perform. Additionally, they worry that people won't even watch the arguments. So it's just another piece of information supporting the claim that they're resisting the calls to televise it. However, no, in comparison, no. And then the tricky one here is, for example, but the fact that the justices worried that that viewers wouldn't watch the full deliberations is not an example of them being concerned about the performance of the people in the arguments debating each other and performing. Okay, the more diverse and wide-ranging an animal's behavior is, larger and more energy demanding the animal's brain tends to be. Okay, thus. Okay, so subsequently would be like explaining a cause, and that's not really what's going on. This is basically just saying the more diverse an animal's behaviors, the larger, the more demanding the energy is from the animal's brain. So, or thus, or as a result, from an evolutionary perspective, animals that perform should allocate fewer resources. Yeah. Okay, we got some more bullet points here. Okay, Gola are a group that have lived in the United States, influenced by West African and Central African traditions. There's this historian, founded this museum. This other historian founded this other museum. Okay, a student wants to emphasize the duration and purpose of the work of these two researchers. Okay, so at the museum, Nope, because that just emphasizes the work, but the purpose of the work, but not the duration. We need both. Have worked to preserve the culture of the Gullah people who have lived in the United States. Okay, why it's not B is because this seems like it's talking about the duration, but again, we're looking for the duration of the work of the researchers, and this is talking about the duration of the Gullah people. Since 2003, the researchers have worked to preserve Gullah culture. Yes, because that has duration of the work and the purpose of the work. Influenced by traditions of West and Central Africa, developed a blah, blah, blah. No, because that's the duration, once again, of the culture, not the work, and it also doesn't even bring up the purpose of the researchers. Okay, factors that affect clutch size have been well studied in birds but not lizards. Okay, so the team did it with lizards. They interpreted the data. They found this conclusion that it was associated with higher latitudes, and then they offer a reason for why this conclusion could be the way it is. They want to emphasize the aim of the research study. Okay, so the aim of the study, what did the study set out to ask or to answer? They want to know which factors influence lizard egg clutch size. That could be it. That seems like it's the aim of the study. After the obtained data, researchers determined that larger clutch size was associated with environments at higher latitudes. Nope, that's the conclusion. We know that lizards... Nope, that's an explanation of the conclusion, not the aim of the study. Researchers obtained clutch size and habitat data for... No, that's the method of how they collected the data. So yeah, that is A. Oh, did I not answer this? Whoops. Okay, 10. Yeah, I think this is right. I don't think it's D because I don't see how Peruvian photographers are super relevant when we're talking about the diverse elements of the society, as well as... Yeah, I just don't see how photographers supports the authenticity component, but like it could be. If I get that wrong, like I guess I understand why, but it's kind of a tricky question. Okay. Rake. Okay, let's just go straight into math. Okay, 35 minutes. I'm gonna move my screen. Oh, we get a calculator. Oh, this is like the Desmos calculator. So you can do like y equals x on here and get like lines and stuff, equations. That should be helpful. Okay. Okay, which of the following correctly represents? Okay, so there's 4 4s, 3 8s, and 2 13s. 4 4s, 3 8s, 2 13s, so that's A. Which expression is equivalent to x squared plus 3x plus minus 40? Can I draw on the screen? In Zoom? I think so. Annotate. Okay, so this is definitely just like factoring. I do remember how to do this. So you got x, because it's x squared, and then we're looking for factors that multiply to minus 40 and add to 3. So that would be plus 8 and minus 5, because we need positive 3, but we need the negative 40. So we need this one right here. Now I need to find a way to... I might not write on the screen as much because I have to like erase it. Okay. Okay. Jay walks at a speed of 3 miles per hour, runs at a speed of 5 miles per hour. Okay, which equation represents? Okay. 3W. Yeah, so it's A, because W is the amount of hours, and then you get 3 miles out of every hour. And you also get 5 miles out of every hour you run. And those total equal 14. That's A. These other 3, like, overcomplicate it. I have no idea where you get 112 from, but it's definitely just A. Okay. In ABC, B is 52, C is 17. Okay, so in a triangle, there's 180 degrees total. So A is just going to be 180 minus 52 minus 17, so 111. That calculator is awesome. Okay, the graph represents the total charge in dollars by an electrician for X hours of work. The electrician charges a one-time fee plus an hourly rate. What is the best interpretation of the slope of the graph, the hourly rate? The one-time fee would be this like y-intercept right here. And the max amount would be like not even represented on this graph. Total amount, no, that would be the total amount would actually, I think, be the area under the curve, which is like a calculus thing, but I don't think the SAT test calculus. Okay, table. What's the question? One of these tiles is selected at random. What is the probability of selecting a red tile? Okay, one of the tiles is 100 total. It just says red. It doesn't specify whether it's square or pentagon. And there's 30 red and 100 total. And the probability would be 0.30. I'm just gonna be safe and just say 30 out of 100. Oh, you can't even do that. So yeah, 0.30. From a population of 50,000, 1,000 were chosen at random. 35% support the legislation with a margin of error. Okay, margin of error from like my stats knowledge is just a sort of cushion as to what it could be. So like if it got 3% off of your answer, that would still like be predicted. So let's do 50,000. You need something on both sides of the... Oh, it thinks that when I do 50,000 like that, it is a point on the graph. So I think we just have to do 50,000 with no comma. And then so 35% of 50,000. And the reason why I'm ignoring the 1,000 is that's just the study. That's the amount of people that were in the study. That's not the population. So actually we need 0.35, 35%, 1,700, and then so the way to test what's within 3% of that would just be to multiply it by 1.03. Not 0.35. Hold on. Let's go back. 50,000 times 0.35. So 17,500. So 17,500 people times 1.03, and then times 0.97, I think, or maybe, yeah, times 0.97 would be a 3% error. 0.97. 0.97. Yeah, so that would be the best estimate, 16,750. It's definitely not these two, and then 31 would be too high given the 31,000 would be too high given the margin of error provided. Okay, what is the positive solution to the equation? I'm wondering if I can literally just graph this on here, and then the positive solution is just 5, x equals 5. Let's see, does that work? So 55 over 11 is 5 and x is 5. Yeah, okay, that works. And it's a positive solution, right? Yep. Okay, an airplane descends from an altitude of 9,500 feet to 5,000 feet at a constant rate of 400 feet per minute. What type of function best models the relationship between the altitude and time? That would be a decreasing linear. It's decreasing because it's going down, and it's linear because there's a constant rate of descending, not exponential. Okay. What is the y-intercept of the graph? So let's just graph this. So we'll let g of x just be y, and then 1 over 12 raised to the x. Is that raised to the x? Raised to the x, yeah. So y-intercept is when the graph crosses the y-axis, which occurs at 0, 11 right here. Okay. Okay, so there's a circle. Circumference is 144 pi. So circumference is 144 pi. Actually, I'm not going to even write that because it's given. So if the length of PS, this arc here, is twice the length of PQ, that means these are all 1/6 of the pi, right? So because 1/6, 2/6, 3/6. So what is the length of QR? The length of QR then would be 144 pi over 3, because it would be 2/6 total. So let's just get rid of all those lines, and then let's do just 144 over 3. So 48 pi. Erase. And then, shoot, mouse, and next. Wait, let me just check that. QR 44. Yeah, circumference is 144. Yeah. Okay. A rectangle has okay, so I think we can just model this again with the thing because, you know, area is area is length times width, and the rectangle has an area of 76 square units, right? So if we set this equation equal to 76 and look for the positive solution of x, 19. And we can even test this now. 19 times 19 minus 5. Not 5. What am I doing? 15 equals 76. Yeah, so it's 19. Perfect. Okay, so which of these equations models this data? Okay, so it can't be this because anything to the 0 is 1, and we need something that gets 604 when t is 0. Same with this. And so if it's C, or if it's, let's say if it was D, we would get 1 plus 604 to the 0, which is 1. So it can't be D either, because that would just be 0.004, and we need 604. So by process elimination, it is C. How many points to the equations y equals, okay, x plus 20, y equals 8x. Zoom that out. They intersect in the xy plane 1 time. Right there. Okay, at a school fair, students can win colored tokens that are worth a different number of points. Okay, so based on this equation, it looks like you get 5 points for every green token and 45 points for every red token that you get. So how many more points is a red token worth than a green? 40 more points, because you get 45 for every one, and you get 5 for every one. And so you get 40 points more. And I don't think the 380 even matters at all. Okay, the number of bacteria doubles every day, and there are 44,000. So this is a like exponential model here, and the way it starts with 44,000. So it would be this, because day 1 or after 1 day it doubles, after 2 days t equals 2, it quadruples from the original start, and then it will continue to do that over and over again. And that's represented by this 2 to the t. These other ones would result in a bunch of, especially this one, like 44,000 to the t. That would result in some insane function, and we just want something that doubles every day. So that would be D. Cylinder has a height of 8 inches and diameter of 8 and a height of 12. What is the volume? Okay. The formula for a cylinder is height times area of the circle, and area is pi r squared. And so diameter is 8, which means radius is 4. So 4 squared is 16, and then times the height is 12. So it's 192, and then pi, 192 pi. Shoot. We erase all of that. Okay. The solution to the equations above. Okay, once again, I'm just going to put these into the graph. You could solve this through like substitution because there's 2 unknowns and a system of 2 equations, but you don't even need to do that because you can just put them in the calculator and realize that this happens at y equals -2 from the graph right there. I just need to make sure I put the numbers in correctly, which I think I did. Okay, so a triangle. Let's draw. Okay, we have a right angle in the triangle. Boom. And J, that's J. K and L, and then cosine. Okay, so I remember that cosine is opposite. Wait, so sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse is 51 then, and then A would be 24, which is the adjacent of J, or sorry, K, which would be here. Boom. So if it's a right angle, that means this is a Pythagorean triangle, or we can use the Pythagorean formula to find, whoops, equals, whoops, wait, whoa. Ignore that. That is not what you do. You do 51 squared minus 24 squared. And then you take the square root of that, 2025. Oops. 45. Okay, so that means this is something called a Pythagorean triple, because it perfectly works out. That won't always be like a whole number necessarily, but it works out. And so now we're looking for cosine L. So cosine L is the adjacent to L, which is 45 over 51. Very nice. Okay. Let's get rid of all of this. The equation defines the function f for what value of f of x reaches minimum. Okay, so once again, I'm just going to graph this in the graph here. 4x squared minus 50x plus 126. Go all the way down, and boom, that happens at a value of x of 6.25. It's not asking for the f of x value or the y value. It's asking for x, so we put in x 6.25. Another way you could do that is with something called the second derivative test, I think. But that is, again, calculus, so I don't think that the test is really looking for that. But you could do it that way. Okay, in the xy plane, the line. Okay, so let's just graph the first equation. Y equals 8x plus 2. Okay, so there we go. And there it is. Y equals 8x plus 2. Okay, so there's a line that goes through 0, 0 and is parallel. So boom, that tells us if it's parallel, it has the same slope. So we have something, y equals 8x, and then it also passes through the origin, which means that it can't have any constant over here because then it moves it off the origin. So it goes through 0, 0. And then so this line passes through what point? 3D. So this point passes through the point where x equals 3, d equals what? 8x. It's talking about this new line, the line L. So y equals 8 times 3, so y is 24, or d is 24, rather, for that particular one. Okay. In the xy plane, a line with equation 2y equals c for some constant intersects with parabola at exactly 1 point. Okay, so first of all, let's just graph the parabola. Plus 9x. Okay, so here's the parabola. And we need a line with equation 2y equals c. Okay, so what's important is that this line 2y equals c, it doesn't have x. It says it equals a constant. So this constant is going to be some number, like 2 or 4 or 5 or 6 or something. And so we're looking for the value of y that will, or c, that will make it so that it crosses through the top of this parabola here. So I might just brute force this. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe like 20. Okay, that's getting closer. That's still not there. So I think what we can do, so the maximum is 10.25. So if we do 10.25, it's going to be too low, right? But what if we do 20.5? No, 20.25. Wait. Does that actually work? 20.25. I don't know. I can't tell if it's like perfectly there or not. Well, okay, so what's 20.25 over 2? 10.125. And what's the max value of this if we get rid of this? 10.125. Yeah, so C is literally just 10.125 times 2. 20.25. Oh, I'm done with the section. Okay. There's probably going to be another math, and it'll probably do the same like adaptive thing, where it gives me more like equations or, sorry, difficult questions or whatever. So I think I got those right, but we'll see. Okay. Expression equivalent. So combine like terms. 9 plus 7 is 16. So 16x squared plus 9x. Let's get that calculator back. Of 900,000, 828 are silver. What percentage are silver? That would be just 828. We can put the thousands. 92%. What is the value of 3t? Okay, I'm gonna do this on my paper real quick because I don't want to draw it out. Okay, so I think one way to do this is to just do 6t minus 20 plus t. That marker is almost out. Wait, hold on. Okay. Nope, that marker's also out. What about this red marker? There we go. I think this will work. So 3t minus 10 plus t equals 40 plus 4t. Okay, that's the equation. 6t minus 20 plus t equals 40 plus 4t. Let's combine 17 minus 20 equals 40 plus 4t. Move the t over, 3t equals 60. So I got that 3t equals 60. But another way I'm going to check is I think you can literally just, so let's let t equal x for this graph. And I think you can literally just put it in 40 plus 4x. Yep. So x equals 20 here. So 20 times 3 would just be 60. Perfect. Okay, moving on. 5x plus 4. Ooh, okay, so this is interesting because you actually don't even need to solve for x because it's asking for x plus 4. And we can see that x plus 4 is very uniquely already there in the equation. So if we know that 5x plus 4 equals 4x plus 4 plus 29, we can literally subtract off the 4x plus 4 and just get x plus 4 equals 29. So it's 29. You can literally do that in your head, but it might be helpful to actually just graph it again like this. And we get that 29. We get that x equals 25. So x plus 4 would then be 29. Okay, a neighborhood consists of 2-hectare park, 35-hectare residential area. Total number of trees is modeled by 2x plus 35y equals 3934. What is the best interpretation of x? That would be the average number of trees per hectare in the park because it's 2 and the x is the number of trees and this models the total number of trees in the park. For a certain rectangular region, the ratio of its length to width is 35 to 10. If the width increases by 7 units, how must the length change to maintain this ratio? Okay, so the length definitely can't decrease. So 2 answers we can eliminate there. And also, if it's 35 to 10, there's no way that it could just be 7 either, because if that would not necessarily mean that the ratio, if this was like 1 to 1 or something, then 7 maybe would work. But by process of elimination, it can't be 7 units because that would not match the ratio of 35 to 10. If you increased both of them by just 7, it would need to be something that is consistent with the ratio, which in this case is B, 24.5. I didn't even do the math. I just can do it by process of elimination. Okay, this equation gives us P and N. Okay, so this is just some algebra, some moving around here. P equals 9 plus 14. Oh my goodness, this is bad drawing. Over N. So P minus 9 equals 14 over N, right? Just move the 9 over. And then you multiply both sides by N. So you get N times P minus 9 is 14. And then so N is going to be 14 times, over P minus 9. Okay, 14 over P minus 9. And let's erase all of this now. Perfect. Okay. The expression 24 over 6x plus 42 is equal to, okay, 4x plus b. So one thing you could do is graph both and then raw force it with the calculator, which I might do both just to confirm, to check my answer. Okay, so actually, let's just see what happens. Because one obvious thing about this fraction is that you can reduce everything by 6. So this would be 4. That would just be x. And then this would be 7. So unbelievably, we literally get our answer by just reducing everything by, or dividing everything by 6. And we get 4 over x plus 7. So b is 7. And I could put that in the calculator and it would probably still work. Okay. A circle in the XY plane has this. So let's just, for the sake of visualization, I will graph this. Equals what? 4. Okay, where is that? Right here. So the thing about these circle equations is that this value over here is the square root of the it's the radius squared. And we can see that here because the radius of this circle is 2 and 2 squared is 4. And so if we want a circle where k is twice as big, or not k, where the radius is twice as big. So we can literally just do this visually. When in doubt, just use the calculator and put it in the calculator. So let's say 4, it's the exact same. If we just doubled k and made it 8, notice how this doesn't actually double the radius. It makes the radius bigger, but it doesn't double it. So we would need something where the square root is twice. So we would need 16, because that would give us a radius that is twice as big. So it would be 16. Okay. Business owner plans to purchase a chair for 81 employees. He has 14K, 7% sales tax. Okay. And it's asking for the price per chair, max price per chair before the sales tax gets implemented. So first step here is to do 14,000 divided by 81. So this is the price per chair that he could pay if there were no sales tax. So it definitely can't be 184 because that would exceed his budget without the sales tax at all. So in order to figure this out, we know it's 172.83, but what we have to do is actually divide this by the sales tax amount. So we have to divide this by 1.0, not by the amount, but by what it would cost if you implemented the sales tax. So 172.3 divided by 1.07, that'll give us the max price. Because of the 7% sales tax, you divide by the total amount plus the tax to figure out what you actually could afford. That's tricky because it can be hard to understand how to actually get what you could afford based on a tax that isn't imposed until you actually buy the item. Okay, we have another system. I'm immediately just putting it into the calculator. And what is it even asking? What is a possible value of X? Okay, that makes me think that there will probably be more than 1. So the possible values of X are minus 13. Whoops. Whoa, ignore that. Let's find the intersections. Minus 15 is a possible value. What about the other one? Just to check. And then positive 11, which is an answer. So yeah, it's minus 15. Okay. How many solutions is the equation? So there's 2 ways to do this. You can do it algebraically, move the numbers around and see what you get. Equals minus 15, 6 minus 10x. Yeah, so the fact that it isn't showing up anywhere maybe makes me think that maybe it's 0. But I'm gonna actually do the math out. I normally would do it on paper. Actually, I'm just gonna, it's so annoying to write this out. So let's change this. So 10 times 15x, so this is actually just 150x minus 90, right? And that equals minus 90, 15 times 6 is 90. And then plus, because of the 2 negatives, 150. I'm now drawing on my Zoom. 150x. So here we see that these literally equal each other no matter what. No matter what the x is, these will be the same, which means there are infinitely many solutions because any amount of x could make the equation still work because of the constants provided. So that actually is infinitely many. Quadratic function is graphed where the vertex is 3, 6. Okay, -3 and 6. So when there is a vertex of -3 and 6, this is you can model this with vertex form, which is y equals a times quantity x minus h squared plus k. This is just like a formula from like algebra, x minus h. So that means that this is actually plus 3 because h is -3 squared, and then you add that 6. So here's like a possible, oh wait, I forgot I have to actually, so let's just like call it 2. It's like, why not, right? So this is a possible model of this parabola, but it does say that there are x-intercepts of the graph, which means it crosses the x-axis, and since the vertex is above the x-axis, we know that this has to be a negative value, because otherwise it would go up to infinity forever, and it wouldn't make sense, it wouldn't ever cross the x-axis. So I'm just putting -2 here as a kind of placeholder. We know that it crosses, this could be anything. We know that it crosses -17/4. We know that it crosses here at 3. So we know that the distance between -3, so first of all, what is -17/4 in decimals? -4.25. So the difference of -4.25 and then between -3. So again, I'm doing this because I am trying to find the distance between here and here, or not there, but here and -17/4, -1.25, because the other x-intercept will be 1.25 away in the other direction of -3, where it crosses in the middle. So now I'm going to do -3 plus 1.25, and that should give me the answer numerically, and -1.75 is equal to -7/4, because 8/4 is 2, 7/4 is 1.25, -7/4 is -1.75. Okay. The graph of y equals f of x plus 14 is shown. What is the function f? Okay, so here we know that, so I'm going to model this equation, y equals -1/4 x plus 2. That's this equation, but it's asking for what f is. And it also saying is this is equal to y or f plus 14. So if this is f plus 14 and it also equals -1/4 x plus 2, then f has to be 14 less than 2, because that's the intercept. So whatever 14 minus, or 2 minus 14 is going to give us the correct like intercept of the main function, which is this 14 minus 12, or sorry, 2 minus 14 is -12. Okay. Which of the following will give this one real solution? So I'm going to just model this right now, and then I'm going to test it with different values. So right now, there's no value in there for b, or its b is 1. Let's start with 40. Sorry. If it's 40, then there's 2 possible solutions, so it's not 40. If it is 5, then there are no solutions. If it's -80, there's 2 solutions. If it's -91, I just realized I had 6 in there, not 6x. So I'm going to rewrite this correctly. Let's try this again. 64x squared. So let's start with 40. Nothing. 5. Nothing. -80. Oh, more than 1. So 80 gives exactly 1. 91 gives more than 1. Okay, I'm glad I caught that mistake, because otherwise that would have been really confusing if I had just had 6 in there. Okay, the graph of 7x plus 2y equals -31. So I graphed it, and it has, okay, so let's figure out the intercept. So a0, we know that the y-intercept is a0, so y is -4.429, and then the b-intercept is, or y-intercept with b is -15.5. Okay, And what's b over a? That would be negative 15.5. Oops. Divided by negative 4.429, which is something that gives us 3.49, which looks like it's going to be 7 halves. Yeah, so I think it's 7 halves. I'll flag that because I'm not totally sure. B over A. Yeah, wait, I did that right. And it's 2 negatives, so it has to be positive. Yeah, no, I'm not flagging that. That's definitely correct. Okay, next. In the system, there's no solution. Okay, so once again, I'm just going to go to the calculator. 6y equals 10y plus 2. Ty, so I'll leave the t as just 1 right now. Plus 2x. And what does it want? No solutions. Okay, so no solutions for these two lines would mean that they're parallel, which means they have to have the same slope. So this is going to adjust the line. So I'm going to just use raw force. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, it looked like 8 might have been right. Let's zoom in. Yeah, so if you put 8 in for t, you get two lines that never touch, and so they don't have any solutions. So the answer is 8. Another way you could do it is you could set the two systems equal to each other and then try to find a value of t where they will never actually work, it'll never actually be equal. But the easiest way to do it would just be to put it in the graph and find the slope. I'm just going to make sure that if I zoom out for a really long time, they don't actually cross. But yeah, they don't. It's 8. Okay. An isosceles triangle has, let's draw this, right isosceles triangle. That means the two sides are x, and then the third side is x square root of 2. That's just a formula. And the hypotenuse is 58 inches. So first of all, we know that x square root of 2 equals 58. Like this. And so the perimeter is going to be 2x. Well, let's figure out, so 2x plus x root 2. And if we can figure out what x equals, then we can figure out the way to write it up here. So 58 equals x root 2. So x equals 58 divided. Is this right? No, that's not right. This is kind of tricky right here. Okay, 58 equals x root 2. So, so x equals 58 divided by the square root of 2. So, subbing this in, we get 2 times 58 over root 2 plus 58 root 2 58. Oh, just plus 58. Yes, because it would be 58 over root 2 times root 2. So just 58, and that makes sense. So 2 divided by the square root of 2. 2 divided by the square root of 2 is just square root of 2. So this is going to be 58 root 2 plus 58. Okay. That's this. That is a pretty tricky question because you have to know the formula for the hypotenuse, and then you also have to do some kind of weird algebra, and you have to know that 2 divided by its own square root is its square root, which isn't something that is super intuitive. Okay. For the linear function, there's these values. Okay, so we can know the slope. So b is 64 because we can see that it's increasing by 64 for every unit change in x. And a is the starting, or sorry. A is 64. B is the starting intercept. So if x equals 1, that means that B has to be 128, or sorry, minus 128, because you would take 64 off of this if x equals 0. And so A is 64. And so A minus B is 64 plus 128, which would be 192. Perfect. Boom. And gone, gone, gone. And erase. Okay. Okay, a data set consists of 10 positive integers less than 60. Okay, let's get the calculator back. 43. Okay, mean is 42. If the mean is an integer, is an integer that's greater than 42, then what is the largest value of set A? So if we add a third or a 10th value in, we have to get a mean that is an actual like integer that doesn't have decimals, a decimal that is greater than 42, and it has to also be less than 60. So once again, because of how much time I have, I'm just going to so basically we have like plus something else, but I'll just put in like 40 again for there, and then do over 10, and then that way we can change it. So if we start at 59, that's not an integer because it's 43.7. 58, no. 7, no. 6, no. 5, no. 4, no. 3, no. 2. Okay, 2 gives us the only way to get an integer that's greater than 42, which is 43. And the way to do that is by adding 52 to the data set. And 52 is also the largest value of the data set when we do it. So the answer is 52. Okay, for a group of 25 people or more, a museum charges 21 per person and 25 for each additional person. Okay, so assuming that there's at least 25 people here, so what we're going to get is we're going to get 21 per person plus the 25 that are there, right? Because we have at least 25, or the first 25, because you get 21, and then you're going to get an additional amount here for each additional person. But the way to model how many people are left after the original 25 is going to be simply n minus 25. Because if there's 25 minus n, my bad. 25 minus n. Because if there are, wait, n people, n minus 25. No. This mouse is annoying. N minus 25. Yeah, n minus 25. N minus 25 times how many? 14. Okay, so this is the equation. So I'm going to get my calculator back out again. 21 times 25, boom, 525. So this is 525, and then 525, and then plus 14n minus whatever 25 times 14 is, which is 350. And then so the answer is 14n, and then plus whatever 525 minus 350 is. So 525 minus 350 is 175 plus 14n. So it's A. And then let me erase all of this. Okay. Last question. If there are two triangles, okay, are they right triangles? Not necessarily. So I'll just draw them kind of like this. Because, okay, so what information is sufficient to prove that they're similar? Okay, so similar means that they have the same angles, but not necessarily the same side lengths. And so we have L, M, N, R, S, T. Okay, L and N, or sorry, L and R are 60. So these are both 60. And then we have 10 here and 30 here. Okay, so we need a way to prove that all the angles are the same. So immediately it's not A, because if these two ratios are off, the angles would be off. So you can't have 7 and 7 when this is 10 and 30. B is interesting because the ratios would then match up because it would be over 3 and over 3. But I'm pretty sure if you do that, that doesn't necessarily prove it, because you could have like a same ratio, but you could have an angle that goes like way off into the distance like that or something, even with the same. So I'm not going to cross it out, but it might not be that. Okay, C, the measures of angles M and S are 7 and 6, 70 and 60. Okay, well, if the measures of angle in M and S are different, if the angle measures, then it definitely can't be true, because that goes against what a similar triangle unit is. Okay, if M and T are 70 and 50, so if M is 70 here and T is 60 here, sorry, T is 50. Now we're getting somewhere kind of interesting, because then we can solve for the remaining angles. So if we go back to our calculator, 180 minus 70 minus 60 is 50, so M is 50. And then 180 minus 60 minus 50, or sorry, N is 50 and S is 70. Okay, so based on the data provided, you can say for sure that this is 50 and that this is 70. And that proves they're similar because all the angles are equal. But again, the side legs don't necessarily have to equal each other. It's just the angles. So I'm not exactly sure why B isn't sufficient for that, but D definitely is, because we just proved it. So D, I believe, has to be the right answer there. So let me erase all of this. And I think that is the last math question. So I will go here and then hit next. Okay. It's over. Okay, view my score. Let's see how I did. Okay, what is this? It's gonna make me sign in. So hold on. Interesting. Okay, there it is. So I got 1600. I got 800 on both sections, and I got 98 correct and 54 correct in reading and writing and 44 correct in math. I think that the way that I was able to do that was probably like using the calculator. I definitely got lucky on the reading and writing, and in the math, I was just using the calculator the whole time, so that really helped. So yeah, that's SAT Digital Practice 1 done.